Hey, and welcome back to the Life Unscripted podcast. Last week we had a slightly different episode. We covered Sarah, her story, and living with type 1 diabetes. And off the back of that, during the episode, we mentioned several times the script, and we tied type 1 diabetes and what's going on with you into the script. We did actually have a couple people ask us about the script, and we did cover it in episode 1, what exactly the script is. However, So Broadband Consciousness is the course that I did where I learned about the script. A couple of years later did the Broadband Consciousness coaching course. And now a few years after that, I'm in the coaching leadership program that they have. And it's all been incredible. And every time I go to do one of those things, I really feel like my consciousness levels up and I feel more like myself, and I just feel so much lighter for having done it. However, even though that's the case, and even though I'm plugged into the other coaches in that community, I still frequently forget. And if left to my own devices, if I'm not working on my mental fitness, the script creeps back in, and before I know it, I'm asleep again. Which is totally fine if it happens. It's just we'd ideally like to be awake. And that's probably why I've started using this term mental fitness. Because we know we need to work on our physical fitness. Everybody knows you can't just do one workout or eat one vegetable or eat protein once and then you're just in good shape. It's something that you have to be doing on a regular basis, consistently over months and years to really reap the rewards and reap the benefits from. And mental fitness is largely the same. It's something you need to be working on a regular basis. I've said it before, but most people spend more time recharging their phone than they do recharging themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think, having said all that, we wanted to spend another episode just diving into the script again for us, because it's a great reminder for us, but also for everybody else listening. Of course, the script's like, oh, you've spoken about me once, don't ever speak about me again. But of course, the script's going to say that. And if you don't know what the script is, I've said it a lot. We will dive into what it is in a moment. So yeah, we wanted to spend another episode talking about the script and maybe touching on our stories a little bit as well, around before learning about the script and then after knowing about the script. Mm-hmm. So having said all that, script in really simple terms is the negative voice inside your head. It is the things that you ultimately wouldn't choose to think or feel and then subsequently do. And it is, we call it the script because it's a bit like you're playing a part. You're not really being the real you. Yeah. It's like an actor's reading a script, and it is really just that simple. The real you, I discovered when I did the course, was just me minus the script. I just had to take everything that wasn't me, that I wouldn't choose, and put it over here, and then what was left was the real me. And I mean, it's that simple. That's exactly what the script is. But I think maybe to illustrate things a bit clearer, we could dive into our stories a little bit. Like I say, pre-BC or pre-script. BC is the shortened version of Broadband Consciousness, which is the course where I learned about the script. But where I learned about the script and me doing BC is the same thing. It happened at the same time. So I may use those terms interchangeably, pre-BC, post-BC, or pre-script, post-script. It means the same thing. But before I did the course and before I learned about the script, I was involved in quite a bit of personal development, like actively trying to personally develop myself, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, one of the major things I probably got from it is I learned there was a lot of ways I could measure myself that I didn't know I could measure myself by before getting involved with it. And it gave the script a lot of material to work with, because now there was a lot of other areas where I could be lesser than or not enough. And the benefit of personal development is it eventually led me to doing the Broadband Consciousness course, which is obviously great. But when I was in amongst a lot of the personal development stuff, it did create, in some ways, a lot more crap for the script to work with. Yeah. But by doing the course, what I discovered was, rather than having to work on everything that was wrong with me, I realized there was nothing wrong with me. I just had to take everything that wasn't me, all the stuff that I wouldn't choose, and put it over here in this other box that's now called the script, and everything that's left was me. And it really became that simple. And it's something I've had to work on, and it's something I've had to work on because, like I said before, when you're an actor playing a part, it's like so many of us are a bit like the best method actor ever. Like, you play a part for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and then you wonder why it's difficult to stop being that part again, and why it feels weird to try and be the real me. Why it felt weird to try and be the real me, because in many ways I'd not been showing up as the real me for so long in so many ways that it felt odd to try do so. And it was just a case of continually doing it and continually practicing and understanding that the script is never going to like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a big change for me. Like before BC, I used to always think I had to try and step outside of my own comfort zone. And then after doing BC, and this feels like a small change. It's like 1 degree of separation, but it's worlds apart in terms of how it feels and how it feels to do. And the difference was stepping outside of the script's comfort zone, opposed to stepping outside of my own comfort zone. It was no longer like I would never, when I'm trying to do something, I mean, for me, it's like in the realms of my business or in the realms of communicating with people, like around like social anxiety and stuff. If I was trying to do those things, like communicate with people in a certain way or build my business, I would never choose to, want to hold myself back in that regard. So then I know it couldn't be me that's choosing. So then I know that it's not my comfort zone that I'm running up into, it's the script's comfort zone. And to know that it's not my comfort zone and it's the script's, which isn't me, was massive.
Mm-hmm.
It was a massive change. And yeah, I think that's probably a couple of big things that changed in terms of pre and post BC. I mean, do you have much to add in terms of your story? I mean, because Sarah's not done the course, but it was really just us talking about it. It's how you got your introduction to it.
Yeah, whenever we started dating and I guess we were trying to open up, especially in those early stages of dating. And it can be quite a vulnerable and scary place for a lot of people who don't, like, I feel like I've never been very good at communicating. But after we initially had like very early discussions about life and I don't know about each other, we obviously discovered those little vulnerability, like insecurity areas. And then that's sort of whenever you welcomed me to the script and saying, I think you started small and planting the seed and sort of saying, would you choose to feel like this? And I was like, no, of course not. And I was like, well, it's not you then. So you would use language like that instead of just jumping straight in and saying it's the script, because I think sometimes identifying it as the script might not click for everybody, and that's why we want to present it as the negative voice in your head. We discuss it as a script, but for people just sort of starting off, it's maybe a better way, a better terminology. But yeah, whenever we first started talking about it, identifying as myself as a separate entity from the script and disassociating from it really helped me in what I was struggling with at the time. And I think new relationships and getting to know somebody and really letting those walls down for me was a massive thing. But you saying to me it wasn't you was massive. And it literally felt like there was a separate being in my head that wasn't myself talking to me and literally being that negative voice and saying crazy things like, well, he's not at work, he's cheating on you and you don't deserve this. Why on earth would a person like this want to date you? All these crazy nonsense things. But I discovered that it was the script and having that identity for it and giving it that sort of name. And I think I even gave mine a name. Like, I know yours is Boring Bob, whatever.
Yeah.
I called mine Deborah, well, Fat Debs anyway, but that's another story for another time. But that's sort of how I identified the script as, to give it that sort of being of a person. In my head fitted it quite well, but you can do what you wish with it. But yeah, that's sort of what I was before, and then discovering the script, it was a massive key for me to keeping it really plain and simple, just to sort of say, that's not me. I would not choose to feel like that. And then trying to apply that to most things in my life. It's easier said than done. I'm not saying I've got the answer to everything, but the script now starts to pop up in different ways because I've identified it in one scenario. It doesn't mean that it doesn't just disappear fully. So I'm trying to navigate, I don't know, my training and nutrition and food and my relationship with that. And the script's trying to find a sneaky way in to be like, hi, I'm here again, but I know you know about me. However, I'm going to try and do something else to try and trick you. So, but yeah, that's sort of how I came about it. But I guess maybe for the viewers, can you remember back to your early days whenever you were sort of, I guess, learning to separate yourself from it? Is there any like hints and tips, or like, see if you're physically feeling something, if you're feeling anxiety, or I find that whenever I feel like a physical response to the script, I find myself, it's tricky to get out of it and like really dissociate from it. But I know right now that you're better at bouncing back.
I think I'll say a couple of things, like in terms of what you just said there. I don't think the script ever goes away. Like it's never going to go away. It's it's just always going to be around. And I think that's totally okay, just accepting that. But remembering it never was you, it isn't you, and it never will be you. And having said that, a conversation I had recently, or quite recently with someone was, no matter how conscious I get, and by consciousness, really all I mean is how much you really are the real you and how separated you can become from the script. The more you do that, it's like the more consciousness you become. And it was like, no matter how conscious I get or how much I'm able to separate from the script, whenever I have a bad day or the script gets me, it's always, why does it always feel as bad as it ever does? And the script makes you feel like, or makes me feel like, oh, see, you're not actually getting any better, because whenever you're having a bad day or you're feeling scripty, it always feels as bad as it ever did. And that's really just because the script doesn't change. The script is like, it's like a caveman or a cavewoman. Like it doesn't ever develop. It's you that's developing, but like we're humans and everyone has bad days, and those days when you do end up rather scripty, it's just always going to feel largely as bad as it ever did, because it's always going to be how it's always been, because it's just what the script is. But to touch on the other thing that you said about hints and tips about when I was first learning about BC, I'll say this, I'll actually tell a bit of a story. In terms of falling asleep and, you become more conscious when the script gets you and you fall asleep and you're not recharging yourself or working on that mental fitness. I'm so passionate about it in some ways because it's exactly what happened to me. I did this course. It's like, it was exactly what I was looking for. Like, I actually found the person that I'd always wanted to be. I found who I was looking for, came home, and I actually fell back asleep. I fell back asleep for like a year. It's like the script, it's like you say, you identify that voice and it's really obvious. Like, oh yeah, that's not who I am. And you're feeling you're on a bit of a high and you're feeling conscious because you've just been in with this group of people who are all getting it as well. And you come home and then, yeah, essentially I fell asleep again. And I think that's kind of why I wanted us to talk about our stories a little bit on here, because I think maybe one place that I didn't go wrong, because my intentions were good and some people did get it, but I came back and I started telling a lot of people about it. But I was like intellectually trying to explain to them what the script was. And I think a lot of people intellectually can grasp what I've said, because it's a really simple concept. Like, a child could understand this. It's like a very simple thing to understand. So intellectually people were grasping it. But because I wasn't really talking about anything to do with like my story and my experience with it, because I think stories really help people understand and connect. Because I wasn't doing that, people were intellectually understanding it, but then I guess they weren't really no one was really getting it, like kind of getting it in their heart or really embodying it, because I was trying to intellectually explain it to them. And then the script, of course the script would do this. It's like, see, this isn't something you want to be talking about, and keep it to yourself, and you've tried and it's not worked, so just forget. And then I'm like, oh yeah. And then before I know it, I'm asleep again. The whole year goes by, and then I don't know what happened. I think it was probably Richard, who's one of the people that did the course. He's always posting on his Facebook, like every day he's posting. He probably posted something. I can't actually remember how I woke up, but I'd imagine it's something like this. He posted something, I read it, and I'm like, oh yeah, shit. And then it's like I wake back up again. It's like I remember who I am almost again. I remember that I was asleep. And I think it's important to say this, because like, the script then tries to beat me up. The script puts me asleep and then it beats me up subsequently for being asleep. I think it's important to say, if you ever fall asleep, because sometimes I do fall asleep, it's totally okay. But I've now just set things up in my life that I know I'm not going to be asleep for very long, because I know the script wants to put me back to sleep. And that's what I meant working on the mental fitness, which is why I wanted us to talk about the script this week again, why it's something I want us to continuously talk about every week. A couple of reasons: to help the listeners, but also to help us. So that's one thing I've done in my life to continually work on mental fitness, to have these ongoing conversations. What I also started doing is I started having a call every month with Liz, who's the woman who I did the course with. Richard and Liz are our partners, and I did it with Liz. Every month since I kind of fell asleep, I've been having a call with Liz, and it's literally just, again, her being like, it's just us waking and each other back up on the call, we both get so much from it, I think, just having those regular calls. And it means even if I was to fall asleep, I know it's going to be, well, now it's probably going to be a maximum of a week, because we have this conversation every week. But before we started the podcast, it would only be a maximum of a month, before someone who really cares about me and really gets it is like, and really wants the best for me is like, hey, wake up. So sometimes I'm not asleep, but it just meant if I ever did fall asleep, it would never be more than a month.
Yeah, and I guess within that month, you're in a way reflecting. You may not necessarily be writing a journal or like keeping a diary or anything, but those things that happen within the month, you know you're going to be speaking to Liz or whoever. It could be your partner, your friend, whatever. I think having some sort of check-in, friendly check-in or check-in with yourself and kind of keeping tabs on if there was a situation which made you feel really anxious, it's a script, it isn't you. But within that moment, it's really hard to identify that it's the script. You're so stuck within yourself where you're panicking, you don't feel good. Only until like you've had a good night's sleep, the day after's come, you'll be able to reflect and say, that wasn't me. But having that external person or source that you can like have those conversations with, that's why I think this podcast is really powerful for us, especially as well as the viewers. We can resonate with each other, with the viewers. We're creating a community and I really hope it'll keep growing and growing. But I think within our relationship, you have been able to bounce back really quickly from whenever you have what I call a script attack. I am not always on the same level, and I feel like it's not me that's struggling with it, but it's definitely the script. But we'll be sitting and you're fine, and I'm not. And I'm like, I don't feel good right now, but you feel fine because you've bounced back from what we just had a discussion about, or if it was something you were going through internally, and I'm not on the same page as you. But ultimately, I will get there, and with practice, I'll bounce back just as quick as you are. But then it's not over analyzing the script and just being with each other and saying, just trying to let it go and just let things happen as they happen. Because then there's no point me sitting there being like, well, the script is kind of disappeared from Chris's head and mine's still here. And now I'm battling with the script and his script, and you can just go in circles and it's ludicrous. Ultimately, it's just like, it was the script. Let's move on. Everything's fine. We're alive. We're breathing. The sun's shining somewhere. All is okay.
Somewhere. You having said that though, yeah, you're right. This is something I've practiced for quite several years now. But literally, if you remember 2 minutes ago, Sarah's like, "Oh, Chris bounces back quicker than me." There was that one time where it took me a year to bounce back.
Yes.
So
it's like you've been there. You've been in the trenches. Like, it's not like you've learned about it. You've got it. You had one course. Jobs are good and I'm fantastic now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to say it's a constant struggle, but it's consistency with your mental fitness. It's you have to keep training, you have to keep practicing. It's the same way when you go to the gym and lift weights or go out for a run and train a couple of times a week. You need to do the same with your mental fitness, and it's trying to find a way for yourself personally, what's the best fit. Whatever way you did it versus me versus people who are watching or listening. Like, is it keeping a diary? Is it taking notes of your thoughts? Like, the amount of times you've said to me about if I've had a breakthrough, when I've had a bit of a scripty moment, and you're like, write this down, remember this. Always come back to it, because within those moments, you'll always remember the negative or the harder times. Oh, the script will, aye. But you'll never remember the moments where you're like, oh, I absolutely smashed it today. You won't give yourself that like moment of award and like you want that feeling constantly. You're always searching for that feeling. I think that's really important what you've said there. And it's something I've really made an effort to do more often, which is write down those exact moments. Any like great pearls you notice in your life, anything that you really appreciate, and it can be big or small. Like, the appreciation doesn't have to just be the big things, like the fact that you woke up not dead. Yeah. Like, just writing down all those moments, I think, is so powerful, because what the script does, the script is like the ultimate lawyer. It deletes, it distorts, and it generalizes everything that happens in your life. So it's like, it's not really about what happened almost, it's about the lens that you're viewing things through. And when you view it through the script, the script lens, sorry, it's going to hone in on all the things that just don't make you feel good, or reinforces like the fact that you're crap, or you're not enough, or you're not confident, or anything that's just the script, all the scripty stuff that's not empowering or doesn't feel good. It's going to take every event that happens, it's going to delete stuff that, like, for me, or maybe a good example for me is, ever since I've come out and spoke about the fact that one of the things that I struggled a lot with was social anxiety and communicating with people, everybody's like, not everybody, a lot of people have said to me, oh my God, what? I would have never thought that about you. Like, oh, you communicate really well, or like, they're very surprised.
Yeah, people are really surprised.
Especially within your industry, like you're
Yeah.
taking classes, speaking like small talk with people and personal training,
Yeah.
like having deeper conversations with people, but you smash it.
Or even like when I'm putting stuff out on social media and I'm talking to the camera, or we're talking right now, people are like, oh, it's so strange, I didn't get it. But that completely reinforces what I'm trying to say here. It doesn't actually matter that like other people think that. The script in my head is viewing every social interaction I have, and it's deleting any good times I have, or it's distorting them, or it's just generalizing everything into like, oh, it was all right, or it wasn't great. So it's like I say, it's deleting, it's distorting, it's generalizing everything that's happening to me. So then I come back to the fact that I was saying it's that amazing lawyer, and then builds this case against me.
So much evidence.
True or not, that in this case, I'm a horrific communicator, and that I am plagued with social anxiety, and that I'm never going to be successful in any like communication endeavor. So that just illustrates what I'm trying to say here. Like the script is just this lens that when you view everything through it, it's all just going to kind of go like, it's just going to go tits up, and it's not going to be great through the eyes of the script. And it's just a case of understanding that, and then being able to practice looking at things through this other lens, which is just the real you lens. Like a really nice analogy that again, I saw actually Richard post. He said, if you're looking at, I'm paraphrasing, this isn't how you put it, this is just how I'm remembering it. It's something like, if you look at the most beautiful, and excuse my French again, but if you look at the most beautiful view through a shit-stained window, it's always going to look shit. Because it's not really about the view, it's the lens that you're looking at things through. And I like coming back to that communication story, like what other people are seeing is not the same as what I was seeing because of how the lens I was passing everything through. And again, I'll just say that again, it was deleting things, it was distorting things, and it was generalizing things to the point that I'm like, it doesn't actually matter how well or not well I was communicating. All I could see was all the stuff the script wanted me to see, which was all like the social blunders and every awkward interaction I ever had, or every social mistake I ever made, or analyzing how every little person was receiving communication from me, or how they were responding to me. And like, it just, because you get so fixated on that stuff, it's like you're missing, in many cases I was probably just missing the forest for the trees. And the script was like, look, all this stuff, like it's just about that lens you're viewing things through.
But then I guess as well, whenever the more time you spend looking through that shit-stained window, and the more energy you're putting into that, I think in the past we sort of said, the more time you spend in that one file, like it was a filing cabinet, you've got all your files in there, all the evidence that the script has ever made against you, all those bits of paper lined up, and you're searching through them all the entire time. You analyze a conversation you had the other week with a person for 5 minutes, you're like, oh, why did I say that? It was so embarrassing, I shouldn't have said that. That's the script. The script is pulling out these pieces of information for you just to sift through, but doesn't remind you of the fact that you've helped so many clients go through their physical journey, the amount of parties and people, how much people love you and all this sort of thing. Like, your head's not going to fit through that door. But it's that way that there's so many moments that you've had such great times, but yourself won't remember them because the script's trying to come in. But by then doing that, the more energy and more time you spend on those scripty evidence moments, that's how you're going to then identify. Yeah, and to wrap up this little segment, because what we'd started talking about here was actually recording the times you move past the script or the pearls. That's why, like, you're almost being like your own like defense attorney, your defense lawyer, because you're building the case of, oh, this isn't true. So that when you are feeling really scripty and the script's whipping out all its best evidence against you, you just need to look back to what you actually wrote down, not to what the script's, not the case it's built against you, because it's a liar. What actually happened, how the real you perceived things. And then you can read through that stuff and be like, oh yeah. And that's not to say that if you're having a particularly scripted day or bad day, it's not going to pull you out. I think one thing that really changed pre-BC / post-BC is the fact that a shit day, or when I'm feeling really scripty, I'm now just okay with it. A shit day doesn't mean I'm shit, or a really scripty day doesn't mean that I'm shit. And that's what the script wants me to believe. But the analogy I've used before that's so true here is, nowadays, if you imagine I'm the sun or you're the sun, when there's a thunderstorm or when the clouds go in front of the sun, it doesn't stop being the sun.
And that's kind of what's changed. Before, I used to think like the thunderstorm would come and it would just be, I would just feel like I'm shit. Whereas now it's like, it's okay that I'm not feeling okay. It's okay that I'm having a bad day. And I'm so much better just having, it's like this deep level of contentment in myself, regardless of what's going on more surface level in my head, that I now experience that I didn't experience before. Because like when we this is the second time we tried to film this podcast, and the first time we tried to film it, there was we ended up I wasn't feeling very good. And I remember thinking back, I thought it'd be a good story because there was times when I felt like that before, and that would spiral into these full on, like, I don't want to say, it wasn't like a panic attack per se. It was just like, I would just spiral to a pretty dark place in my own head. Like for days? Well. Or just? I could vary, but it would way longer than I do now. Yeah. And it felt hopeless, and I felt like I was fucked, and I felt like things could never really change. And now I just don't end up in that place because I know it's not me that's trying to go there anymore. The script still wants me to go there, but I know it's not me that wants me to go there. So as it tries to walk us down that path, I'm now way better at being like, it's okay that this thing's happened and I'm not feeling great about it. I'm a human being, but I'm not going to go to this like really dark place that you're trying to take me anymore. And in terms of, like you say, when you have that really like, you really feel it physically, like when you're talking about the anxiety, like I've been there. And when you've been living with that for so long, it's really tricky to, I get it's really tricky, especially to tie on what I said before, whenever it comes back, it feels as bad as it ever did, especially with things like that. And it just is over time, through practice and through being around the right people, I've just been able to just start to flip the switch where now the default is me being the real me, and then sometimes I just forget and fall asleep and I'm the script, whereas it used to be the other way around. Mm-hmm. I was mostly the script and I was mostly feeling that way, and every now and again I got to be the real me, and over time through practice I've just flipped it on its head. But of course it felt odd at first. Like I said, it's like I was a method actor acting as a certain character for years. When I tried to come back to being the real me, it feels odd at first, but through time and through practice and through communicating with the right people and being with the right people and building that positive case in defense of me against the script, I have been able to just get better and better at it. But I actually just want to add something, because the only thing I don't like about this analogy, actually, having thought about it, is I'm saying build a defense against the script. I think the one thing that I don't want, because I did this and it just didn't work, was I start to fight the script. I try to push up against the script and fight it. That's what the script wants.
In what way do you mean? Like fighting against it?
Like actively, like thinking the script is something that can be removed or beaten. Like trying to...
so it will have a presence in your life.
It's always going to be there, I think, is the point I'm making. It's just before I tried to... And I guess this is what I was doing with personal development that wasn't working. I didn't know at the time, but I guess what I was trying to do was quieten or destroy the script. And you can't do it. All that's changed is, I used to think I was the script. And I used to think the script's voice it had a seat at the table. And now what I've realised is that it's not got a seat at the table. It's like at the children's table. Mm-hmm. Like it's like a little child. It still has a voice, but it's not nearly as impactful as I once thought it was. It's like if a male adult attacked me, that wouldn't be a great situation. But if like a little 3-year-old started kicking and punching me, I'm like, oh, it's no worries. And that's kind of what's happened to the script. I used to think it was like another like male adult attacking me, and I'm like, oh crap, this is. I actually used to think it was me. So I used to think it was me attacking myself. But in many ways, it was like it was an adult. But then I've realised it's not. It's way smaller than I ever thought. And that's not to say it doesn't still get me. When it does still get me, it feels like it's as big as it ever was, like I've said in this episode already. But I'm just way better at bouncing back to the fact that it's actually not. Mm-hmm. It's not this all-powerful thing that runs the roost, and it's not me.
But then I think that's when appreciation is a great way to practice.
Oh yeah.
I think putting out that energy where you're waking up in the morning, you're grateful to be alive. Let's start small, that you're waking up and the weather's not great, but it doesn't matter. Like the sun is still there. You just can't see it because of the clouds. And I think those daily appreciations, or I don't want to say affirmations, but if you're waking up grateful and you're waking up that you're lucky enough to be able to move your body if you can, that you have a job you can go to, that you've got a roof over your head, like things like that really push your perspective to then remembering how lucky you actually are. instead of like trying to strive to make as much money as you can, but you have enough money to hopefully be able to live and eat food and have a roof over your head. Like there's those times where people unfortunately don't have what other people have, and ultimately it's being grateful for the situation that you are in and whatever journey you are going on, because then the more energy that you're putting in to be like, I'm not working hard enough, I'm not in the job that I want to be in, I need to earn more and more money, you're ultimately not going to be happy.
Yes, it's like that's why I always say waking up not dead, because in terms of appreciating, like if you wake up not dead and everyone you care most about wakes up not dead, like how's that already not like the most successful day ever? Because imagine you achieved all the other goals you could ever want to achieve, but you failed at that one, or someone you cared most about failed at that one, like, but really about you. Like imagine you failed at that one, like none of the other stuff would mean anything.
It really changes your perspective, because there's been times I've been in work where I've had a near meltdown because something's gone wrong or something hasn't been quite perfect, and the script really gets me about perfectionism. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. I was like, I'm going home and someone that I love and care about is waiting for me whenever I get home. My family are very healthy and alive. Like, what have I got to not be grateful for? And it really puts things in perspective. When the script is trying to get you about something that didn't go very well in a meeting, you're sort of like, well, what is happening right now? And taking a step back and sort of like looking at yourself, like that way of like your soul's coming out of your body, and you can look down over on top of yourself and actually remember where you are in your life.
I think it's very difficult, at least for me, if not impossible, to be really scripty if I am genuinely appreciating my life.
Yeah, and I mean fully embodying.
Totally.
As you said, it's that way you can intellectually explain to somebody. And I'm not saying I've got it perfect. There's times I wake up and I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered today. And you turn around and you're like, well, you're not dead. And I'm like, oh, go away.
But see how you're saying, yes, this is like, see how you're saying you've not got it perfect. I think it's still that way the script's coming in the back door, because I'll tell you this. I've been doing this for many years, and then Richard and Liz have been doing it for far more years than I have. And because I've had several conversations with them about it, and the script still tells them they've not got it. The script still tells me I've not got it, and the script's still going to tell you you've not got it. Like
you're on one level versus being there on another level versus you. But it's like you're always constantly comparing yourself to somebody where you're like...
Sorry, yes, you are right. You are constantly comparing yourself. What I meant there was like, there's never going to come a time where, again, the script's never going to change. It's never going to feel like you've got it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much you actually get it, it will never want you to get it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Of course, what you said there's totally true though. Like comparing yourself to others is also something the script loves to do in that like it loves to compare and then be like, it's like all the pain, it does it for me anyway, all the pain points I've got, so around like communication, the script will find someone who's fantastic at communication and it will then compare me to them in that way.
How can I be like that?
Yeah, because it wants to find my pain points. It wants to find the buttons it knows that they can press the identity it's crafted around me to strengthen that. But to touch on something you said earlier, because we have mentioned it in previous podcasts, but it's worth probably saying again that when you mentioned the filing cabinets, I think really all I remember that is just imagining there's two filing cabinets. There's the real you and then there's the script. Mm-hmm. And if you're trying to look for something, because we were talking about this in regards to how you were feeling about nutrition the other day, it's like, if you go to the script filing cabinet and you're looking for it to say anything nice about any encouragement, or you looking to feel good about something, it like communication with me, like if I went in there and I was looking for the script to be like, no, you can do this, you're capable, I'm never going to find it. It's because how long is it going to take you to find what you're looking for if you're looking in the wrong place? You're never going to find it. It'll take you forever. So all you had to do was stop looking in the wrong place. And that was just a case of realizing you're not that voice, and then the right place is just the real you. And then when you look there, it's not to say I necessarily have the skills to do something. Like, for example, if I went into high diving, someone put me up there and like do a triple backflip into the water, I would have no idea how to do a triple backflip and then actually land in the water without potentially killing myself. So it's not about, like, I'm okay to acknowledge there's some areas where I maybe don't have the skills that I need, but I now know that with time and with effort, I could learn those skills if I needed to, and I'm just prepared to back myself, and I'm also just confident in myself to do the things that I want and need to do before, where the script isn't and never will be.
Do you think even like the art of looking, like in that way in your brain, you're like, I'm going out tonight, I want to be communicating great, what can I do? Like, I believe in yourself, like even that act of convincing yourself that you're good at communicating, is that the script? Like, even like, see, if you were just to be yourself and just to be and not to really think about it and just go out and just be yourself, is the act of searching and convincing yourself that you're good at communicating, is that the script?
So I guess the words I've used before is, I think the only if I like kind of like stray into like the realm of analysis, the script just runs riot. However, as long as I stay aware, it's more like being aware of the fact that when you're the only one in the room, you're not the only one in the room. Like the script's also there. And then when you're like, oh, if I'm thinking about it loads, is that the script? I just think it's a case of, if like the script, like, or I should be like, oh, I'm feeling good about it. The script's always going to be there, and it's never going to feel good about me communicating. It's just a case of getting better, being like, yeah, okay, am I surprised that it's there? No, I'm like, oh, good one, script, thanks for the heads up that this is going to be like a shit conversation, and almost just making fun of it.
Yeah.
So if there's like a lot of analysis going on, it's for my head, I'm just like, yeah, that's definitely like script infested waters. Not that analysis about things can't be positive, it can. It's just generally, especially around things that I'm particularly scripty around, I know going into analysis is heavy script infested waters. It'd be like jumping in a tank with like 30 starving sharks. Could I survive? Maybe. Would I do it? No. Would I want to test that theory? No. So it's a bit like that. It's a bit like that analysis. It's a bit like that. It's like that water tank with 30 starving sharks. It's like, could I go in and be okay? Maybe. Am I going to? Probably not. I'm probably not. And it's just, again, staying aware instead of analysing. Just aware of the fact that I'm not alone. The script's there. It's never going to feel good about it. But it's never been me. It's not me now, and it never will be me. And sometimes it's going to take over, and sometimes I'm going to fall asleep. And that's totally okay as well. As long as I'm setting things up in my life to help, taking that evidence, having the call with Liz, having these conversations, actually putting this out, and the script hates that I'm doing this, but putting this out into the world is inevitably going to cause other people to ask me about it. And the script's like, nah, don't talk about it, because like I said, my story, when I initially tried to talk about it, in many ways, people weren't really getting it. So the script's like, don't ever talk about it. So I figured a good thing with the podcast is, rather than me try to talk to other people about it, if I just talk to you about it, and then it'll get put into the world, and inevitably people are going to start asking me about it, and then I'll be forced into the conversation again. So it's just a bit like a F you to the script. It's like, I'm just going to do it anyway and make it happen. So yeah, I think I hope that's answered your question about like, is it the script? Again, if it's just all that analysis, I just tend not to swim in those waters. I just stay aware that I'm not the only one in the room.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that I think maybe for me, it's a way for the script to try and sneak in.
Yeah.
Like if I start, like if I'm thinking in my brain, there's two sides, there's the script and then there's me. I was like, I'm going to go out tonight and have the best time ever. I'm going to keep pushing through that energy, and the script's like, hi, I'm here. And it's trying to
yes.
It's trying to, I think in my brain, it's trying to find another wee way in to be like, if you start analysing me or yourself, I'm going to win and I'm going to come in, and you're not going to go out tonight.
I think that's it, but that's almost like a positive thing, although it feels like a negative thing. Oh, the script's found a way in again. It's like you said, when you initially learned about the script, and it was kind of like attacking you about our relationship and about your deserving of how deserving you are of our relationship. Eventually you're like, oh, that's obvious. Like, oh, that's not me. Like, I'm deserving of this relationship, and that voice that's making me feel otherwise is the script. It's obvious and it's a liar. And then you become more conscious. Your consciousness goes up, and the script's like, crap, I can't get you like how I used to get you. So it does have to like, it kind of like goes into the shadows, and it finds new ways to try and get you. And although that's annoying, and although it feels like, oh, am I really succeeding at this? It's actually a positive, because the script can't just come out of you and stand in front of you and be like, yeah, you're shit, mate. And you're like, you're at a point now where you're like, shut up. Like that's like, it has to find a new way to come at you.
Yeah.
It has to be more sneaky. It's like coming in behind you in the back of your ear being like, oh, you're shit, mate. Like, I can't just stand in front of you and say it anymore. It's always going to feel like it always did, and it's always going to say the things largely it's always said. It's just how it has to approach it changes as you become more conscious. And for me, I just treat that like the great game of life now. Like, the script's trying to get me, and I'm just like, nah, I'm going to stay conscious, But even, I'm very grateful for whenever the start of our relationship, whenever we had those kind of tougher conversations, and we still have them now. I think just at the start, it felt even harder because I'd never been vulnerable with anybody, with a stranger, essentially. Like, I didn't know you. It's quite a terrifying thing, and I know people out there, like, communication, especially in a relationship, can be really, really hard. And it still is. Like, we have many script attacks, and we have disagreements, and we have to talk through them. But I think the saving grace is that we know it's the script and it's not you, and then we can give each other a bit, or me, yeah. But I remember at the start you were sort of saying to me,
would you choose to feel this way? Or like, I didn't feel deserving of our relationship. Like, why would you want to be with me? It was all quite sad and really dark. But I think something that also stuck with me was that if I keep pushing out that energy, I will push you away. That way of like, if I have the energy of like, I am deserving, not in like in an arrogant or cocky way, but just in a humble, I deserve a good, healthy, loving relationship, I would attract that. It's that way we're like, oh, if you stop looking for it, then you'll end up with somebody. It's always that sort of vibe of it. But it really stuck with me whenever you said, the more you put out that energy, the more you're going to get of it. So if I'm saying I'm not deserving of you, why would you want to be with me? Eventually I would push you away.
Especially, again, it's how the script's like deleting, distorting and generalizing things, because whether me wanting to be with you, all evidence was to the contrary. But it doesn't matter that that's what's happening.
I did not believe you. I was like, well, no.
Well, it's not that you're not, it's not even like you're not believing me. Again, it's just like that lens, that scripty lens you're viewing it through. It's like, it's never going to let you believe that.
Yeah.
You know, but you would ultimately choose to believe it. So it's like, it is something that you would ultimately choose to believe, but when you view it through that script lens, it's just deleting, distorting and generalizing what's been said, and you're just pulling out what you want to see or what the script wants you to see.
Because even now, like, I am a lot better and the script comes at me less, and I'm aware of it to know that it's not real, essentially. But even now, and we're like, nearly 3 years into our relationship, I'll have moments where I'm like, if you don't like step up, he'll leave you. Like, it's finding other ways. Like, I've never been in a relationship this long before, but at the start it was like, oh, you're not gonna last. It's really new. It's gonna be fun, and then he'll go. But now it's sort of like, if I don't step up, if I don't train as much as you, if I don't look after myself as much as you, and then like, you are a personal trainer, your lifestyle and your day to day is different to mine. However, the script is saying to me, oh well, you're not as good as him, so he'll leave you.
It's just that comparison thing as well, again, isn't it? And it kind of comes back to something we spoke about recently as well, where we were talking about comparing, especially comparing to, like, I don't think you should compare yourself at all, but to compare yourself to someone who's vastly different point in the process than you is also, it's really futile.
Yeah.
It's like, at the end of the day, I'm 30 now, so I started getting involved with the gym. I remember my dad had some dumbbells on the bench, and he also had a P90X DVD. If anyone knows what that is.
I don't think I know what that is.
It's like these workout programs.
Oh, right.
My friends are listening to the way
like
laughing.
The Davina McCall one, like the aerobics.
Yeah, but cooler than that.
More manly.
So I remember when I was 15, I got involved in that stuff. And then when I was like 16, 17, I remember just started to like tinker with my nutrition and try and like understand it a bit. So now we're somewhere in the realm of like, 13 to 15 years on from that.
Yeah.
Where I've been like tinkering with this stuff and trying to learn and really, really loved the process and been passionate about the process for a large part of that 13 to 15 years. So it's also like the script will be like, it's like with podcasting, like I'll look at people who have been podcasting for, they're on episode 2000 and I'm like, oh shit, we're nothing like that. I'm like, no shit, we're nothing like that. Like, and it's the same here. Not that I think, like I say, I don't think comparison's a good idea anyway, but the script's going to find someone who's like 15 years ahead of you and being like, why are you not there, mate?
Yeah, but I think it's the same, having the awareness of it and the awareness of that, yes, we have just started and we're going to give us a bit of a break because we're learning as we go, we're having fun as we're doing it, we can hopefully help some people along the way. Yeah. But knowing that could be our goal, I think it's really shifting our mindset to be like, we can be those people that have 2,000 episodes and we can be just as good as them. And I think it's Stephen Bartlett with the CEO Diary, I think he just reached like 1 billion streams.
Mad.
Like 1 billion.
And if you're watching this and we're like
start of our journey.
And we're like 5 years in the future and we've put out 2,000 episodes, get up, you script. We did it.
But it's just that way of having the awareness, but shifting your mindset to be the positive thing. Like, you've got a new job, you're entering a new relationship. Instead of focusing on the breakup or you're going to get fired, focus on the fact that, like, yes, you are new to this situation, but why not make it all the way? And why not think, oh yes, I'm going to absolutely smash it and get to the end goal, the thing I've always wanted to be striving for? Because again, if you're looking in the wrong filing cabinet, that's your outcome. That's what's going to happen. If I say I'm not deserving of you, I'm going to push you away.
It's also fun just to squeeze the juice out of life a little bit.
And it's getting that feeling, as you said before. Like, I remember you won your stone lifting competition, must have been a year ago?
2 years? 2 years ago, I think.
And I could see in your face, like, you were so happy that you won. You couldn't believe that you won. But I could see in your face, you weren't taking in that you had won.
Nah.
And even like months later, and like your wee trophy sits up on the mantelpiece, I'm like, you won that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
And I think it's, again, creating that feeling even before the result, if you were lucky enough to be able to get the result, you know what I mean? It's that way, like, you didn't even squeeze the juice from that win because you couldn't believe, the script was in your head being like, Oh, was I deserving of that?
Totally. I'm cognizant of the time because I know we're about to run out of film footage, so I think we should probably wrap up there. Today's episode has been on just more about the script and our story surrounding the script, so I hope you've taken something from it. I've taken a lot from it. I really love this episode.
I hope you're still with us. I hope you've made it along to this far. And please like, subscribe, follow, share. I think we're really trying to grow our community here, and we're very grateful for any response or feedback or anything. So please just share until your heart's content.
Yeah, please do. And that's all for today.
Yeah, see you next week.
Thank you, everybody. Bye. That was a good episode. That was a really good episode.